Hello YouTube. Welcome to the introduction to Miscellanea. This is a new channel, a new podcast. Some of you may know me. I've done podcasts before. We'll get to that, but this is something new. My intention with this channel is to create a space where people can just kind of talk and share stories, have some fun, just get to know some people. I've always really enjoyed talking to people, so this is just another excuse for me to do that, which I will demonstrate a little bit more as I go here. So I guess the next thing to do would be to introduce you to me, for those of you who don't already know me. Well, my name is Shane, and ever since I was young, I've been kind of obsessed with stories and storytelling. I was told a story by an aunt of mine that I pretty much taught myself how to speak listening to the movie A Never-Ending Story, which for those of you who don't know, it's a children's movie that came out early 80s. And I guess I would watch that movie and repeat what I heard and kind of taught myself how to speak that way. So another thing from when I was a child, again, I had a grandmother and a couple aunts who would do a lot of yard sailing or garage sailing. For those of you who don't know who that is, because it's kind of not as popular these days, people would just sell things from their garage or from their front yard. And I was really into the TV show He-Man. And so they would collect me these He-Man figures from all over the place. I'd get some for birthday. Next thing you know, I have this massive collection of He-Man. And, you know, kids play with toys, they come up with stories, but I would act mine out. I would make, people come in and watch me do this. I ended up in the newspaper because I would do it kind of outside my home on the street, getting people to listen to me tell my little He-Man stories. And I always remember having to come up with the, if you remember He-Man, there was always the moral of the story part at the end, right? Or the little life lesson that they would give you at the end. Always having to come up with those was often challenging and a lot of fun. But I spent a lot of time playing with things and coming up with movies and storylines in my head. When I was very young, I would read a lot, so I would watch movies a lot, things like that. So that led me to liking to talk to people and hearing them share stories. I was lucky enough to have a lot of elderly relatives that would have had a lot of interesting life experiences that were able to tell me stories, and just a lot of different experiences in life that allowed me to talk to many different people. So that, through school, it was speeches and, drama club and things like that. And then when I got a bit older, I started to get into music as a way to tell stories, and by writing lyrics and poetry, was able to share experiences with people, tell stories through the medium of music. And even in my professional background, I've met a lot of different types of people. For the most part, I've managed restaurants. And any of you who've ever worked in a restaurant, you'll know there's a really big variety of people who come and go through restaurants. And you can meet some really interesting, fun characters working in restaurants. So, obviously as a manager, you would have to get to know these people really well so that you could manage them effectively. So, there was a lot of that. I also worked in convenience stores on overnight shifts for a long time, which, I became a bartender later in life, but looking back on my experiences as a clerk in a convenience store, it's not dissimilar to being a bartender, especially if you're on the overnight where, traffic's a little bit lower. There's people who, have insomnia or for whatever reason are just night owls and have a lot of stuff going on in their mind who, will show up at something like a convenience store and then get talking to me, and the next thing you know, sun's coming up and they have to go home and sleep. But, I've also done different types of therapy as well. I have a degree in psychology and studied theology, so I was always into speaking to people about religion as well. I guess I'll come back to that, but I've done various forms of counseling with people over the years, everything from like helplines to actual, therapy with someone who has something like a DID or extreme trauma experience in a specific field. And obviously that's, again, a lot of talking to and listening to people. As well as all of that, I've 4 years now been doing podcasts in conspiracy woo-woo crazy land, and have spoken to a lot of people through that endeavor. And basically what it all boils down to for me is it's kind of been a life goal of mine ever since I was young to be able to get as many different viewpoints as I can get into my head, as many different stories as I can get into my head, because I don't like division a whole lot. I think that there's common ground for all of us to find eventually. And I wanted to search that out. So a lot of my interests have been geared towards that. And I figured that this is a good way to share that with everybody, is to have conversations with people and let people see different sides of the same coin, allow people to hear different stories from people from different walks of life, so that hopefully we can kind of start to relate to each other a little bit better. I hope that it helps at least a little bit towards that, but just in general to make people consider different points of view. It's healthy, it's good for you. You don't have to agree with everyone you hear. You don't have to agree with everyone you talk to. You don't have to be friends and buddies with all the people you talk to. You can just talk to them, right? And it's never a bad idea. So that's the basis of what I'm planning to do with this podcast, is take all of that experience that I've had, share it with you guys, as well as share it with guests that I have, and share those guests with you guys as well. And I conceptualize it kind of like a Library of Alexandria for people, if that makes sense. A whole bunch of, because you got to think about the way books used to be written. A lot of them were, told in story form. It wasn't quite like the books we have today, where everything's a little bit more fact-checked and researched and whatnot. People would just tell their stories, right? And this is kind of like a digital recreation of something like that in my mind. So I plan on having guests from, like I said, all different walks of life, different friends that I have that are creative, that are not creative, different friends that I have that agree with me and disagree with me, or, just are doing something that I would like to talk to them about, or just people that I find interesting and think that you would too. So everything on this channel will be free. If you like what I do and want to see more of it, of course, there's other avenues you can do that through. Just hit me up, ask me about that. So I think that's all I really need to say for now. I'm already starting to book people to talk to. I will be recording a couple over the course of this week, and hopefully the week after I will be able to start releasing them to everybody. So keep an eye on the channel, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, all that jazz that people are supposed to say on their YouTube channels, and I'll see you when I see you. All right, thanks guys, bye.